Good afternoon. Alright, so today I need to wait for Visual Studio to stop crashing. Let's see, I've got my all this stuff. So I need to start working on the UI for the stats. Yeah, so I'm going to need to be able to fetch the stats, and first thing I probably want to do is I probably want to mock up what the screen flow is going to look like for the actual stats themselves. So why don't we pull that up? So I was hoping I'd have a mock-up or something like that. I've got a simple mock-up here for stats. Let me see if I can actually paste an image in here. Can I do it? Did it work? No, didn't. Can't paste images. Let's see. Copy. No. Clipboard does not contain an image. Alright, well that's unfortunate. I need to go find that then. There it is. There we go. So this is the mock-up for the UI, which Adam put together for me for the user profile page. So, of course, our official nemesis of everybody is going to be Jeff, because Jeff is just such a hateable individual. By hateable, I mean hateable. Let's see. He's just actually good at the game, so that's a problem. So what we need to do is we need to figure out exactly what we want the screen flow to look like. So it's going to be kind of like, I guess, main menu, and then what do we want this to be? So like we can go main menu, stats. What's a good game that actually has stats? Let's just pull up some basic stuff. So like StarCraft has like single player, multiplayer. They've got like this kind of stats thing which pulls up your player profile. And they've got stuff like that, so you have like high level career stats all over the place. Achievements, all of that fun stuff. So that's how they do it. Let me just use that kind of as a reference. So from the main menu, we want to open up a user profile. And then kind of they've got these tabs on that, so we should have different tabs. So we'll have, I guess, what do they call? They call them career stats, so let's just do all-time stats. And then I guess we want other things, so we'll want like daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal. And off of each one of these, you'll have your stats, and I think we'll also have leaderboards. So kind of like we've got this, so this will be like all-time stats for your character. And let me see, he's got like online, offline, matches played, all these other things. So we have like, it's not just a straight list of stats. It's like we have important stats, and then we've got like unimportant stats. So let me just break that up. So For each one of these, we've got important stats, and then we've got unimportant stats. And so these guys are like listed by name, and we need columns for, I guess, context. And for these guys, like we've got these, but having it all one-off like this, like we don't know if this is online or offline, your online or offline profile. So like we can combine them into one screen like this, but then like we lost it. Like these down here don't have anything on them. So this UI mockup is not complete unless we want to have, this will be like your online stats. But even then, like that's a little confusing. So what do they do here? They've got like league games, custom games, free for all, 1v1, 2v2. So they have like your big stats and they have it per context. And then I think we've got like the unimportant stats, and I think those need to be a little bit different format. We'd probably want like different rows for different contexts. Alright, so we'll have columns, have icons, and then I guess we have these rows of stat sets. And then we have kind of a leading icon, and then we have I could see these kind of being split, so each one of these guys is like offline, online. So we have like the fat sack character, and then we have like an offline icon and an online icon. Okay, so we have these user stats. So these will be like kind of the pages, and the question would be, how do leaderboards look with this? So let me see. So if we got this, and this is like your user profile, and it's got your basic high-level stuff, and then we have tabs for like weekly, daily, or something else. I guess the other thing is we're going to need important stats. We're also going to need a header. And we're going to have stuff like your name. So you have your name, so account name. Do we need like tabs for different context? So tabs for the interval? So you've got like the all-time stats here, daily, weekly, and all that. So I'll flip through these and it'll have your important stats. And then maybe we could have a leaderboards tab for every one of these. There's also no back button here, so we need a back, like, yeah, these mockups give us an idea, but we need to remember there are other things that we need. So it's back button. Looks like he doesn't like the kind of the headers anymore on any of these screens. We don't see like a user profile up there on this guy. So where do we throw the leaderboards? I mean, we could have like a user profile page and have a leaderboard page, but I think pretty much you want to go to like daily. It'll show you. I guess we'd also want our rank. Like if I was ranked 1 or something, and I would want to see it. I'd want to see like my best rank over here. Like matches played, and you'd be like rank 1 all time, or rank 50 all time. Let's see, highest rank. If ranked, show number for rank. This is like all time, so it'd be rank. So maybe we should have like a little rankings button for all these things. And it would take us to that specific stat. I'm kind of thinking a rankings page, which has rankings based on stat, so you could see the top X for whenever. So I'm trying to think about this. So for some of these, if we have a leaderboards page, we're going to want the various stats to have maybe their own little buttons or something, so you can like click. I'm trying to think. So if I had to make this page, so it'd be like, like stats, or like, so like monthly stats, and then we might have like our icons for different types of stats that you could click on. And then we'd have because we could have something like oh my god, this is bullshit. Because we could have something along the lines of different stat categories up here that you could click on. So it'd be like all-time, monthly, weekly, daily. And then we have all these different stat types, and then it would have, you know, like these buttons. And you could, you know, scroll through it or whatever. And like, I guess you could click on one of these guys and then go to their user profile. So what it would say, like, we'd have like the stat names, so we'd have like, or do we have other attack categories? So we'd have like attacks, and then it would show like, you know, player touches, and then it'd have the summary of all of them. Because I think we probably don't want leaderboards for absolutely everything. We just want leaderboards for main things, such as, you know, we'd want wins. So let's see, what kind of leaderboards are we looking at? We probably want like a wins, losses leaderboard. We probably want an attacks. So it'd be like a player touches. We'd want and let's see, this would be based on like your win-loss ratio. Now let's just do like most wins is what we're doing on, and this will be just the player touch. Wins, loss, assists. No, it's going to be wins and losses. Let's do this. Will be like goals. We'd probably want like highest scorers, so it would be like a, yeah, so this would be like goals, assists, and then we'd want the player touch and ball touch. So this will be sorted by most goals. Did you get your leaderboards mock-up? I don't think so. Where was that? It's in the document. Alright. Well, we're not doing drop downs, so you're screwed on that one. Sorry if I wasn't looking at chat earlier. Do you have a direct link to that image? Because I can't copy it out of the damn Google Doc. So like, thing does not. Like, I can take a screenshot of it and snag that, but that's kind of primitive. It's not actually letting me grab the image out of it. Because, I mean, you got all these sort columns, and that's not. It's a lot of data to go through for some of these. So, having people have the ability to sort on absolutely everything, especially some of these don't even exist, so like none of these stats exist. Jump to my position. From late rank, yeah. Let me take a look at this. Let's see. Alright, so it looks like he added all this stuff on Tuesday. After we looked at it and wrote the initial stuff. Alright, well, I don't think any of this is gonna work. So we break these down. We can do wins and losses. We can do that. How do we do history? Like if we have we select into, if we select into like weekly or something, how do we, because we want to go between different stats for a specific time period. So we have our profile stuff, that's separate. Yeah, because what I see basically right here is we've got a kind of an overall ranking point leaderboard, which is based on an aggregate score, which is based on we assign points. A goal is 10 points, an assist is 5, a punch is 1 point, a victory is 20 points. And then we can do something like that in order to create an aggregate score system. So I could add in an aggregate score. Which could work. I mean, we don't have any of these extra things. With these, I mean, these rankings are also, we're going to see where we are in the rankings. So, what are some other things that need to be written down here? It's like We see top 50. Our score is highlighted if present. And if we aren't on top 50, we are at the bottom of the list. So we'll load our score anyway. As for sortable drop-downs, I don't think we'll have sorting on them. I think probably the idea would be have separate leaderboard panes for different types of kind of leaderboards. I could have an overall leaderboard, and then I could see these other ones where it's like these are the winningest players, these are the most effective goal scorers, and these are the most violent or most controlling. Like touch stats could work. Because if we're doing one leaderboard, like all these things will work together with multiple. So how do we navigate dates? Because we can do like weekly, daily, blah, but if we want to go back in time and compare, I mean, how do the other guys do it? It looks like for like StarCraft, they've got only one season that's ever available at a specific time. So they just have the most recent one. You can't like go back and until like last week's leaderboards and see who won that. It's unfortunate that drop downs don't work in our WebKit, because that would pretty much be the way to do it. Would be like week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. I can see kind of a sandwich level sort of thing, as we've got like we've got 3 different layers. We've got the high score table type kind of across the top here. We've got the high score interval type, and then we've got the actual interval. So it's kind of looking like something like this, where we've got these like 3 levels of stuff, like maybe for the high score intervals, like there's only the last 10 maximum or last 5 maximum or something like that. How many types do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So probably 5 maximum intervals. So maybe you could look 5 weeks ago, but that should be good enough. I might actually want to scrub all data older than that. So you could look 5 months ago, 5 seasons ago, 5 days ago. I could see days being more, but you got weeks, so days should be fine with like a 5 max. So if we just throw them across there, we can select all of those, and so we should be able to throw them across. And for the overall ranking, I'll need an aggregate score, which is not impossible to do. I just need to go add that in there, and I'll have to do that today. This question is, where on this page are we going to grab the leaderboards? I mean, it could be a separate thing. It could just be, this is a user profile page, and your user profile page allows you to look back at, you know, your like current stats for the current day, week, month. It would be nice to see some history there as well. So, I mean, it's kind of the same sort of pattern of, you know, user profile, and then we go to kind of an interval stats sort of things. Like we got this nice big page, and then we've got these other pages which have more specifics. What would they look like? I guess we could just have like raw, loose collected stats for every stat type that we got, with like an icon for that stat going down the side. So what would that look like? So we actually have like 3 different screens. We kind of have a user profile for each current thing. But this stat list isn't actually going to need to be that big. Like, we've got plenty of room here where we could have like a, you know, where we could have something else over here. Like, what do we actually throw in there? Because the stat list doesn't need to be too insane. I mean, the other thing was we could actually have like kind of this like stat list sort of thing in the middle, and then we could have kind of this like left and right arrow sort of situation going on for tabbing through them. And we could do the same thing here. So we could kind of like click through and see things, and it would say like, you know, week blah 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 from here to here, and then we could look at the ranking. Yeah, I'm not sure some of these stats, like we got the idea of accuracy and attack bonus. I don't know what attack bonus is. Is that in the doc? Badge allocated, flag. Player chooses flag from a list. Goals, goal value, example 100, only counts in a match versus at least one opposing player. How can player exploit this to cheat extra points? Well, we're not going to worry about exploits to begin with here. In fact, I would encourage them at the moment. Assist, alright, so we have win values, attack gameplay bonus, to penalize dash smashing, ratio of hits to misses, dash smashing and spinning punch, reducing your accuracy. So accuracy is about attack accuracy. Total of that and all that. Alright, so there are points, there's an idea of accuracy. That's kind of a difficult thing to think about though, because we don't know the player's intent, if it's to attack somebody or not. And what's an actual thing. So I guess it would be an attack that doesn't land. So accuracy would actually be probably pretty low for everybody. It'd be like a laser tag match where everybody's accuracy is like 10%. Alright, so we want an accuracy stats. This would be landed attacks versus attacks that strike things. So let me think. If we just do like a straight thing, we might actually hit multiple players, so would that be like 200% accuracy? I mean, why not, right? Like, sky's the limit. You hit 50 people at once, that's fine. We also want, why don't we add that in, only report stats for games with at least one other player or bot. So we need something that reports a bot. Let's see. Do we have anything like that right now? So see how that goes. So how do we get to the stat history screen? I guess there'd be a history button up here. So like if you had your profile, I think we need a nav bar on the bottom or something like that. And that'll have like our back button. And also like our stat history. We'll need icons for every stat, won't we? Be nice if we had a tooltip framework as well. It would also be nice to have a player profile page for every user. Like I could go click on a user and pull up their profile page. So you could go look at them. Kind of a mess. So I'm trying to think about the structure of this as well. The thing is, if we make like a big stack of screens that all go to infinity like this, then we're going to run into problems where like you can go from your profile into history, or your profile into high scores, into another user's profile. Well, I guess we can kind of mock it up a little bit. You know, like it would be like we go to main menu and we'd go to stats. It'd be like stats menu. So it kind of looks like this, where and you could go into the leaderboards, which would take you to user profile, which could take you to stats history, and you could also go like stats menu to your user, which would open up stats history. So you'd be in stats history for like that player, and then you could go back to user profile. And you go back there, it would take you back to that leaderboard page, and then you go back to stats menu. So you couldn't like arbitrarily go to somebody else's user profile from here. You can only go to specific ones. So user profile page, take you back to stats menu. So that's kind of what it looks like our structure is. Like that. Do we have any information of if a user is actually logged in or not? Right now we don't. We have their account ID, and we can see if that account ID exists. Alright, so I guess I need to do that, where I need to only record stats for accounts which actually exist. So we need to We'll need to scrub the data because our servers, we don't currently have it totally locked down for like if a user's playing like an offline user, generic user, blah, and has joined a server or not. So like our offline stats, I mean, we could gate it on the server has to be logged in to report stats, which is true right now. You have to be logged in as the server to report stats, but the people who join your server, those accounts need to actually exist. So we'd have to enforce that on the back-end server side. So we'll just do like an account thing. All right. So I think we've got basically our mock-ups here. So let's start on those aggregates real quick. I don't have arbitrary values for stuff. Like I don't have stuff nicely in data that can be nicely accessed for tweaking. But we don't really want to tweak this value anyway because like the aggregate score is determined by the servers. So maybe it's better if it's not actually data driven, so we don't change it all the time. So let's do that. So let's go ahead and put our aggregate score stuff in here. Alright, so kind of what I'm going for right now is figuring out how we're going to do the UI flow for the stats. So the idea basically is that we got the main menu, and off of the main menu we've got the stats menu. The stats menu is pretty similar to like the multiplayer menu where it's got, well, what do you want to look at? Your user profile, do you want to look at leaderboards? And it would just have those two options, like go back, it would be a third. You go into the leaderboards, and from leaderboards you could click on, you know, your user to go to their user profile. Also from the stats menu you can go directly to your user profile, and then user profiles would go into stats history. The high score screen, kind of based on your mock-up, what I think is there's a high score table type kind of at the top. High score table types are like overall ranking. We might have some other high score tables such as, I think basically like goals and wins. I'm not sure about ball touches and player touches as being compelling leaderboards, but it wouldn't be hard to add, you know, just like sort on this stat. Basically, we have the aggregate score for overall, then most goals, most wins, and then something else for them. So we'd have these types kind of arranged here based on, you know, like overall, goals, wins, hitting people. There'd be a bar here that would say the current interval, week 2, or, you know, week 2 and then the date, start and end. And would also have like the next and previous ones, and you could navigate back in time basically by the thing all the way on the right would be the current one, and the thing all the way on the left would be the oldest interval. So if this is a daily interval, you could keep clicking back to, you know, week 5 or something and be able to view it. And from the high score screen or from the stats menu, you'd go into the user profile. Profile, I think we can get looking very similar to what you have got here. So basically a bar for your name, and stuff like that. We don't need interval stuff. This is just an overall user profile. We'll have a list of important stats that have real names and then the context out by each column. We then kind of have unimportant stats. We'll have like the overall score and stuff like that as well here. And we may have some more important stats such as like seasonal score or current weekly score and things like that here as well. Nemesis and some of these things, of course, we won't have in this one. We got these unimportant stats. The unimportant stats are probably just going to be your all-time of those stats. And they might be broken up. These might be double numbers based on offline, online to kind of show them on one page. And I think we'll need a navigation bar at the bottom or something to say like go back or go into your stats history. Stats history page looks very similar to the leaderboard page, but this is more just a list of stats with icons. And since we don't have like a high score table type like overall ranking or whatever, we're pretty much just have a stat interval type, which would be weekly, daily, all-time, or seasonal. And the same thing with being able to page back in history and see your stats. And I assume these are just alphabetical or in terms of some enum. So I think that's pretty much it. So you basically, the user experience would be you're in the main menu, you click on the stats menu, it takes you over to a nice looking area. Click on your user profile. You get something that looks very similar to this, with a couple more buttons, and you can look into your history. And if you want to see how you compare, you go back out of your user profile to your leaderboards, and you'll see something very similar to this, but kind of a flatter top, and not as much information as you've got here because we don't have all of it. But we won't be able to sort, and I think we'll have top 50. And if you are not on the high score table, you'll still be here. Just like your number will be 55 or something. Are we doing this in WebKit? Unless you want to put everything in coherent yourself, there's like switching over to coherent is going to take a long ass time, like multiple weeks. Like that'll be a whole. It'll be a stretch for us to like actually even do any of that, and so absolutely not. We're probably not going to switch over our UI systems until. If I put up the calendar, we're looking at months and months for that. So I would put it completely out of your mind. Because like coherent or whatever, whatever thing we're going to put together for this, you can't just take somebody's word for it that it actually works. We have to actually go get it running and do some due diligence experiments and anything like that before we even plan on using it. Like we can plan on switching to it, but it's the difference between knowing if shadows work and knowing if shadows work with a orthographic camera. Sometimes it takes a while to figure that, oh shit, this doesn't work for what we want or not. So that's pretty much the plan. I need to start pulling up some of these stats. So I need the enums. Alright, here's all of our stats that we got right now. So we're going to need an overall score. Why don't we just call it score? Do you need new mockups? No, I don't think so. The mockups that you've got, give me a good idea. Because basically I'll be taking this sort of stuff right here for the stat list. And this will pretty much be what the high score table looks like, of course, with the things that don't exist not being there. And just, you know, some of the stuff like, you know, drop downs aren't drop downs, they're this left right crap. And, you know, no sorting, you know, so stuff like that. So I think we got it together. Trying to think about accuracy, because the accuracy is a completely separate sort of stat from absolutely everything else. Like, everything else is just adding numbers together, but accuracy actually requires the, like, in order to calculate accuracy, it's actually two numbers together, and that's completely different from every single other stat that we have. Like, we have win-loss. We don't even have win-loss percentage as a stat. We have wins and we have losses, but win-loss is not there. So we'd probably have a stat of, like, you know, ball touch, player touch, and then just like moves thrown or something. And then we'd basically have a stat type based off of those other things. I guess we could call it touch attempt, so we could calculate it using that. Yeah, ranks, flags, like, none of those player profile stuff exist, right? So I would have to go build an actual player profile system, which has stuff you can customize. So that's character customization. So, you know, like, we just don't have the data for that. We don't have a system for it, so that's why it doesn't exist. So yeah, we're not going to have like win-loss percentage and touch accuracy probably for this one, because it's a separate stat type, right? It's not just a single number, it's multiple numbers. Such as, you cannot calculate accuracy independently of each other, because it's not like a straight add. It's like it's an add and then a divide with like a, you know, a weight behind it. So we have to track two stats, and I can't sort on it. So I could probably put like your accuracy in here, but I wouldn't be able to have a high score table with accuracy or with win-loss ratio. It would just be most wins, and then he could put his win-loss ratio on it. I'd have to do some sort of post-processing to create a separate aggregate stat for that. In order to do that, I'd have to write to the database for your current stats, then fetch them, the two stats together, and then write another one. It's not possible. Let me see. So, touch attempts, we'd have our win-loss, and we'd also have our, we just have accuracy. I could see if it's not too hard to put in. Let me write it down and see if I can make it in there. There's another call on there, but it might work.